So historically, plate armor has been pretty great, but when you think about modern day plate armor with some keyboard plates, probably not the best due to the variety of materials and the amount of holes we would have in our armor. But we do have plates. In fact, I have 4 plates in front of me that I'm pretty curious to try out. Recently today in the mail, I got 4 plates from KBDfans. Brass, aluminum, polycarb, and carbon. We haven't seen these plates on KBDfans. They're pretty inexpensive, and if you're building a 60% tray mount, you may be wondering, what plate should I pick up? Well, there's going to be a longer, comprehensive overview later, but I want to give everyone a first impressions upon receiving this in the mail today and building these up real quick with an HS60 hot swap PCB and some MX Xilinx V2. And speaking of Xilinx V2, the sponsor for this video is Zeal PC, where you can get some awesome V2 Zelios, Xilinx, some Telio switches, and some Helio switches at zealpc.net, or you can even check out the super awesome Xeno 75%, as well as stabilizers and other awesome accessories. If you're shopping at Zeal PC, feel free to use the Man of Interest affiliate link, zealpc.net/man of interest, where I will get a small kickback for any purchase you make on the site, which will help me out significantly. Well, without further ado, let's get to these plates. And to the table here. So let's look in front of us where we have our test bed. This is going to be the Revo 1 case, tray mount case in the human color. No center mount tray, which I prefer because it gives more flex. Wish it didn't have the spacebar one, but that's okay. This is what we're going to be using. Usually I would have some kind of liner like this or sorbethane to put in, but we're gonna do this raw. So we're just gonna put this PCB straight in, and then we're gonna secure the PCB. So for the switches that we'll be using some 78 gram Xilinx V2s from provided to me by Zeal of Zeal PC, the sponsor for this episode. So on this stack here, we have the brass plates, all super shiny and reflective. Ooh, it's pretty solid, has a good heft to it. So let's pop this in and try it out. As you might have noticed, I'm not stabilizing my right shift because I'm not going to use it anyways. So therefore, it's actually pointless to me to have it. So let's pour out some switches and let's get to it. Not too shabby. Now let's get some keycap action going on here. And for this keycap action, I'll be using a GMK set. I'll be going with GMK Cyan. Here we go. This is it right here. Brass plate tests. Initial impressions. It's nice and sturdy, nice and solid. Pretty clean sound to it. When I push down, it's the whole board that is sinking into the desk mat, not the plate sinking into the board. So it kind of defeats the point of not having a center mount, which is pretty solid. This is the only plate that I have that's also switch top compatible. So otherwise, pretty good, pretty good. Now, let's consider everything else on its way and everything else that is next. So, next up, we have this here black aluminum plate I got. It's nice brushed, and this, like the rest of the plates, don't support switch top removable. Womp, womp, womp. Womp, 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 womp. First, of course, we gotta take off these keycaps, so let's get to that. This is the brass plates. Next up, we have the aluminum one. This right here is very sharp and it just cut me. How exciting. So yeah, watch out for the edge on the hole. That's not a file down at all. Perfect. Here we are again. This is with the aluminum plate. With a softer sound to it, I think. Very, very slight bowing in the middle. Very slight, like almost imperceptible if I'm typing normally. Still feels pretty good. There's less solid kind of feeling because of the less thickness, but it still feels pretty good. Not too bad. Now let's move on to the next two, which I think for a lot of people will be very interesting. This was aluminum. Next up, polycarbonate plate. So this one is interesting. It's super bendy. Super bendy. And you know what? You bend it, it's still straight. It just has to be a super bendy plate. So this is gonna be really interesting to install. It's gonna be really interesting to approach. I hope the switches can clip in okay and it can be removed okay. Okay, here's a board with all polycarbonate for the plate. It's in a very minimal effects. Now it feels like I'm typing on the tray as opposed to on a plate. That's just because of how flexy the plate is and absorbing. Sounds interesting though. Maybe if I didn't use silent switches, this would turn out slightly better. interesting feeling. Hard to describe right now, but definitely in the future when I go over these plates a bit more. Better put it in the words. There's almost a vibration that kind of permeates through it. It's interesting, I'll tell you that much. So, Polycarb plate. Initial impressions, what you feel about it is extremely small on a tray mount. When you're working with a tray mount, you definitely don't get as much effects of a plate, which is very unfortunate, which makes a Polycarb plate, at least upon initial impressions, hard to recommend. Because even with the flex, at the end of the day, after you push through the flex, you're pushing onto this PCB, which is on to these tray mounting points. So yeah, hard to recommend that. But how about this one? This one's interesting. This is the carbon fiber one, which is a very I mean, look at it. Look at it. It's just ridiculous. So here's the thing about the carbon fiber that I liked upon picking it up. Okay, look. So when you try to bend it this way, it doesn't really bend. Like the Polycarb, really good for this kind of bend, okay? This kind of bend. Follow me here? This kind of bend. This, even with all these, isn't that good at that kind of bend. Actually, it's good at this kind of bend, where it goes this way. It actually does pretty well at that. Still kind of fragile feeling, but it does better at that. So it's a different kind of bend than the Polycarb plate, because the Polycarb plate doesn't actually do that one super. It does it good, not as well as this one obviously, but that's what this carbon plate focuses on, but with a bit more structural rigidity, since it doesn't do this kind of bend. It doesn't do it well. I wouldn't do it because it'd break it. So that's the interesting part of this carbon fiber plate. And to be honest, now that I feel it, I'd actually love its implementation on a non-tray mounted plate, if you know what I mean. I think that'd be A+ for it. But let's see how this turns out. Okay, actually I can feel a difference to this one. Wow. This carbon one is better than I expected. For sure, actually, yeah, definitely better than I expected. Kind of wish I didn't use silent switches so I knew more of a difference between these two. Well, that's all 4 plates. Carbon, polycarb, aluminum, brass. So, initial impressions. Which one, at least on this initial offset, would I recommend? Would I not recommend? Honestly, my recommendations would be brass, aluminum, carbon fiber. I'm not feeling the polycarb. Maybe I need to spend more time with it to get used to it and really let it sink in. But right now, I'm not really feeling this unless you have an RGB build where this will be beautiful diffusion as a plate, or just LEDs in general. But at the moment, I am not feeling it compared to the other ones. I will want to redo all these tests, but with not silent switches. I don't think silent switches was the best route to go. I also will do it with proper loop stabilizers next time. It's a bit late. That's also why this video is going to be probably coming out late. But hope you guys enjoyed this little roundup of little plates that I did get recently. Of all these plates though, I think if just for tray mounts, aluminum, brass are your best options, because at the end of the day, when you bottom out, aside from just the plate, you're bottoming out on the tray. When you bottom out on the tray, if your material above it for your plate is too soft, you won't get optimal feeling out of it compared to a brass or aluminum plate, where you will feel these plates before you feel that tray upon bottoming out. Whereas with a much softer polycarb plate, this is so soft and so bendy that you probably won't feel this as much before you bottom out to the tray. That's why I think a polycarb plate would best be used in a sandwich case mount or a top mount, but not as a tray. I think the carbon fiber does fare a bit better due to its stiffness as a material. That's why I do place it above polycarb, still below aluminum and brass. So what do you guys think? Are you guys over tray mounts anyways, or you don't mind the occasional tray mount every now and then? Since tray mounts, I do believe, have their place in the community, whether it's with you right now or in your past, who knows? Let me know what you think. Comments down below. Let me know what you want to see in the next overview of these plates. Till then, thank you everyone so much for watching. I have a Patreon if you want to check me out. Feel free to like and subscribe. Ciao.